Okay, so you've seen the introduction on what this is about. If you haven't, then have a look at the first video. It's not very long. I'm going to keep them short and sweet, to be truthful with you, so you don't get bored. As previously said, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. This is my journey and my family's journey through myself being diagnosed with prostate cancer. If you haven't seen the first one, I'm 55 years of age, and like I said, I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and this is going to be the journey all the way through. So we start off probably, I would say, May, June. I started getting some really sore pains in my right arm. And basically, when I would stretch for something, this arm would just go totally dead, and it was like it was on fire. And I just put it down to I used to do a bit of bodybuilding. I just put it down to that, really. You know, dry ligaments, dry joints, that sort of stuff. Probably about 2 months after that started, I started to get aching in my hips and my lower back. Now, I've had a lower back injury, so I just again thought it was due to me not exercising and putting on a little bit of timber. I had put on a little bit of weight, got up to, I think it was about 15 and a half stone at that point. And I'd already been on high blood pressure tablets, cholesterol tablets, obviously satin and stuff like that. I was having a few issues from that point, but this wasn't sore; it was just like a constant ache. And then that moved on probably in about November, I would say, end of November. No, probably start of November, October. I started getting up during the night and peeing quite a lot. Probably 6-7 times a night, and it was always just a little bit, wasn't much. Lie back down, just been to the toilet, lie back down, feel as if I wanted to go to the toilet again. And that carried on. And then it came December, and I was like, right, okay, really need to get to the doctor here and see what's going on. So I went to the doctor, I think that was the 3rd of December 2024. Explained to him my symptoms, asked me if I had any history. I was like, no. Obviously, well, everybody in my family had died of some sort of cancer, but nobody had ever had prostate cancer to my knowledge. So, obviously, then said we can either do a PSA or we can do an internal examination. He said if we do the PSA, we then have to do the internal. He said, but if I do an internal, we can't do the PSA because that elevates your PSA, having a little prod around there with the finger. So we decided to obviously go for the examination. I think it's called the DRE or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so he told me to lie on the bench. I lay on the bench, and obviously he then came behind the curtains, and I didn't know, but he said it would be helpful if you could take your trousers and your pants down, because obviously I'd laid up with my pants and my trousers still on in the fetus position. So I got back off, did that, got back on. Obviously the boy lubed up, albeit didn't feel it at the time. But yeah, obviously went up there, felt about. It was quite painful, to be truthful with you. It wasn't the most pleasant of experiences I've had. But yeah, and then obviously the examination done, said get dressed, come and sit down. So we sat down and he said, you've got an enlarged prostate, and also I can feel 2 lumps on there. So we need to fast track you through to the urology department. So I think it was a couple of weeks, got fast tracked through, went through, sat down with I think it was the registrar. It was quite, to be truthful with you, it was quite, oh yes, whatever. I was giving him all these symptoms. And yeah. quite standoffish. My wife, she's medically trained neonatal midwife, also has her own aesthetics clinic. So quite standoffish. I'd lost a bit of weight by then as well. I'd been trying to lose a bit of weight, but I'd got down to about 13 stone 3 by that point in a couple of months. So I'd lost a fair chunk of weight. So I missed that bit out. So yeah, so we sat with the urology department. He then explained that I would need to have another examination. So yeah, so again, went and lay down. This time remembered to take my trousers and my pants down. And he did the examination, and yeah, it was really, really sore this time. Very, very painful. Still hadn't had a PSA done at this point. And yeah, it was really, really sore. Very, very sore. So anyway, we came away, sat down. His kind of whole persona changed, so to speak. Yeah, he kind of went all really sympathetic and head tilting, all that sort of stuff. He was giving off a totally different view and a different kind of persona. You know what I mean? Is that the right word? Persona? No, he was giving off a different something anyway. And he said, you're going to have to go for an MRI, as there are 2 lumps, bilateral, one's bigger than the other, and an enlarged prostate. And yeah, obviously it's a bit, okay, right, it's getting a bit more scary now. And yeah, so got booked in for the MRI. Went for that, I think just before Christmas, 21st, something like that. Went for that. And had all that done. That was quite easy. That was just lying back, obviously a load of noise with headphones on, and had that done. And waited for the results over Christmas. So Christmas wasn't the best, but obviously we've got kids, so we tried to put it at the back of my mind. Obviously my wife was with me through all this, so you know, and I'm not going to make any bones about it. I was absolutely emotionally all over the place. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. Is that right? ADHD or something like that. Anyway, I was diagnosed with that. So obviously my mind was kind of going all over the place. I was upset. I was crying. Obviously thought I really thought I was going to die. I thought that was it. But yeah, and then, like I say, the constant aching. It was then going kind of into my inner thighs and around my testicles. And yeah, it's quite horrible, to be truthful with you. You know, the emotional side of it. My wife was obviously going through it as well, but she was trying to be strong. Because we didn't know at this point. We just assumed, the doctor was saying you're probably going to need a biopsy. So obviously these guys are feeling these things every day. So I would imagine that they know what's good, what's bad, what's in between. And he said at that appointment, you're gonna probably need a biopsy. You are going to need a biopsy, because I was asking questions. Right? Is it bad from what you're feeling? All these kind of questions going through. And then basically we just waited for the results, and waited and waited and waited. It seemed as if it was an eternity, but obviously it was Christmas, so it was going to be a bit longer. And then we got the results, I think, the second week in January. That basically what they'd found something on the prostate. They put me in PIRADS 4, which is a scaling that they give on an MRI. It's 1 to 5. So 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 is, no, there's nothing there, it's fine. 3 is, I think, it's something there, but we're not sure what it is. 4 is, there's definitely something there, and it's clinically sufficient, I believe, and probably prostate cancer, and 5 is clinically sufficient, and it will be, prostate cancer. So I was 4, which could have been 5, could have been 3. And then I decided while I was waiting for a biopsy, because when they weren't telling me what was on the MRI, I went for a private contrast MRI. Cost me 350 quid. Went along. I mean, this is the one where they put a bit of dye in your vein. It goes around your body and it highlights. So anyway, we got that back, and I'd had a PSA test done as well. The PSA came back at 6.7, which isn't terribly high. So it could have been higher, could have been lower, but they say for someone of my age it's around 3.6, 3.4, something like that. 4 is the top of the normal range, so obviously I was above that. So obviously that had come back. We then went for this contrast MRI at a private clinic in Milton Keynes. And within a week, we got the results back from that, which I was a bit disappointed about because the NHS hadn't told us about this at this point. So what they'd found was a 12 millimetre lesion on the PZ. So the prostate, from what I believe, is made up of 3 areas. You've got the peripheral zone, the transitional zone, and then the centre zone. So you've got the PZ, the CZ, and the TZ. Yeah, that's right, I'm sure. If it's not, don't blame me, but I'm sure it is right. I'm pretty sure that's right. And mine was on the PZ, so the peripheral side of it, which is, I believe, is the most common place for it to be and also be detected, because I think TZ you can't see, something like that. So I had it on that, and they measured my prostate. And now this is the peculiar bit, because they measured my prostate at 28 millilitres, which is 28 cc. That's quite a small prostate from what I can gather. I think anything under 30 is small. So then you work out your prostate density, which is the cc divided by your PSA, I'm sure, or one way around like that anyway. The two are divided against each other. And normally your prostate density should be about 0.115, I think, something like that. Mine was 0.23, so, obviously higher as well. But like I say, we're now waiting for the biopsy to be done at this point. And that will then take us to the next stage, which is they do the biopsy, and they then give you a Gleason score, which is basically the aggressiveness and all this sort of stuff. We'll go into that at the next one, but that's where I'm at the minute. I'm waiting for the biopsy to be done, so that they can work out the Gleason score, which then works out your treatment path and what happens then. So yeah, a lot happened over Christmas, quite traumatic. You go from being normal to then obviously making sure all your life insurances are sorted out. I've now got a will because I didn't have a will. It's mad crazy. I think from my point of view, if I was to talk to somebody else about it, which obviously I'm doing, don't get carried away. Which is what I did. I got totally carried away in my head. My head was going overtime, like I say. It was in my bones. It was in everything. It was, I totally got carried away with it. And that would be my advice: just to breathe, take it all in, obviously, but looking at it now, if there's any type of cancer that you're going to get, this is probably the best one to get. There are so many different treatments out there for it. Hopefully we've caught it early. That's the main point. If anything changes down there from from a pain point of view to an aching when you know, and you haven't got a cold or anything at all changes like that, go and get checked out. You know, you can go to these private clinics and get your blood done. I think somebody called, Medichecks is the one that we use to do a private one. You can go and get that checked, or you can do something. You know, once you hit the age of 50, I would start having a look at what you're doing and all that. Like I say, this isn't medical advice. This is just my opinion and what I would suggest to somebody. You know, is go and have a look at this, because if you get it caught early, you're onto a winner. You know, if you don't, then you're playing Russian roulette, really. Hopefully, I've not left it too long, but I should have really gone earlier, when the aching was in and all that sort of stuff. You know, I couldn't sleep. I was tossing. You know, I was on one side 2 or 3 hours, then on the other side. You know, so if I could do my time again, that's what I would do. And probably, but having said that, I didn't have any history in the family at all. So it just goes to show you, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And yeah, that's where we are on the journey at this point in time. And like I say, once I've had the biopsy, I'll come back and give you that stage of it. Okay? Hope you're all good. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.